Disclaimer, this is not to rat or hate on this product, this is my completely honest on-take of this map and involves some of my constructive criticisms or fixes that could be done on the map to solve problems I've come across. With that being said, let's talk about the Isle of Siptah. What's up, Fire fam? My name is Kiahonfire and welcome back to Conan Exiles. Today we're going to be talking about Isle of Siptah, like I said, and this is going to be my review on it from the time of November 2020. So do bear in mind as time goes on, the game might change from the state it is right now. So this is my opinion at this time frame now, and probably for the rest of 2020 and this year, since there hasn't really been any announcements on any more content coming out for Siptah, only kind of repairs and fixes. But of course, it's still early access, so do give it that lenience, of course, because, you know, early access DLC, they still have plenty to work on. That's been made pretty clear for me going through this. But yes, Siptah, it's a very raw, peeled back version of Conan Exiles in a way. The map size I'm happy with, honestly. It's probably about right for a DLC map. You know, it could be a little bit bigger with the sea space being used a bit around the outsides, but I don't know if they're planning to do that at a later date, maybe. And I did write a kind of review when I was doing beta testing for this kind of thing of how I felt about this map. And I will reiterate some of the points I had in here because I do feel like they were valid and they still are very valid. So pros and cons, etc. with this kind of thing. But one thing to stand out for me, Siptah being a solo map is definitely going to be a no from me unless you're very experienced and you really know what you're doing in Conan. If you are a less experienced casual player, then I would say Siptah is definitely not for you. If you are 100% going to be solo, I would say bring a friend or something, or a few friends actually, to help you tackle through the challenges or the grind to do with it as well, because it can get a little bit tiring when you're doing all of those things yourself. And that being said, is with like farming the storm or farming the vaults, it can get very samey very quickly. One of my things with the Isle of Siptah as well is I'm a little bit sad about there is no end game really. And once you've got all of those vaults done, once you've done a ley shrine, done all of that, then where do you go from there? You don't really, unless you're trying to do any of the PvP aspects in this game. Then sure, you could go ahead and do the PvP, but anything PvE wise or game content wise further on from that, there is absolutely nothing to do past all of that. Once you've got over that novelty about yay new dungeons, yay the ley shrine, and then it just flops majorly after that. So something really needs to be done about the end game here. I do feel that really strongly with this one, and again, not solo friendly. Definitely have a group, or you know, be more experienced with Conan in itself. The art style of the map is really nice though. That being said, I really like the graphics. Maybe the contrast could do with a little bit of a tone down in some places, but it is a very beautiful map, so it's really good for builders that want to build in different biomes and enjoy the lighting and the scenery of this actual map. It's very suitable for that kind of thing, so that is wonderful. But now I'm going to go through each of the points of the map, so each of the features I'm going to knuckle them down, tell you what I like and what I don't like about them. So I'm going to start off with Elder Vaults, and honestly I quite enjoy the Elder Vaults. The only thing I would say is the scheme of them is pretty samey when it comes texture wise, so you have that same Elder Vault texture going throughout all of them, but they have different aspects in them, which I like. I like the puzzles, I like the different mechanics. I might have toned some of the mechanics up a little bit on some of them, maybe put a few more levers in or buttons, things to make you have a little bit of a puzzle in there. So a good example would be one of the fish dungeons I did where you have to go and pick up eggs to go and put it on the pressure plates. A few more things like that, or the dials you turn in different other dungeons. A few more things like that I think would have really made the dungeon quite special to experience as first time and go for it as well. And those things, yeah, I liked, but maybe could have done with a little bit more. They are actually really nice and rewarding when you do them. You get plenty of Eldarium, you get a nice mix of items, although some of the items could be a little bit weird in some of them, aka you get like raw meat and wood and stone, and those loot tables don't really make too much sense for me in kind of dungeon, but fine. You know how it goes. And there is a lot of variety here as well. You got 14 different ones to choose from and explore. You can do all of them. or once you've chosen a place to settle, then you tend to choose the ones around you and do those a bunch of times to get what you need out of them. Alright, so ley shrines and surges. This one is a toughie for me because I do feel like I enjoy them, but I also heavily don't enjoy them for quite a few reasons. I'm glad the devs, though, tried to spice things up here and try something new that isn't on Conan Exiles itself. It is a very different way to go about things, like ripping all the camps out and just doing those tornadoes, and then having the ley shrines with all the higher content just sitting there is, well, it's a nice way to do things. But again, very, very solo one friendly, unless you're just doing the tornadoes, where that's fine to do. But if you want to do the ley shrines on your own, it's very troublesome and definitely not for a casual player at all. You definitely have to watch some videos on that one for sure, which is not really what you want to do in a survival game, really. You want it to be pretty, you know, you can figure it out yourself and enjoy the adventure kind of thing. But that's why I'm here, to help you. I was quite glad they did add a better percentage to get nicer rules via the surges and the ley shrines, though, because previously it was absolutely ass. I probably did over 40 ley shrines and only got 2 named crafters, and one of them was a carpenter, so I was not happy. So I'm glad they changed that. It is still pretty rare, but again, you know, this thing you have to farm a lot for, and then hopefully get the reward there. But in some cases, the reward for the equation of the farming is not quite up to scratch, and then once you got all this stuff, well, like I was saying, the problem, there is no end game, so you have all this nice stuff, but you have nothing to do with it. As for the tornadoes, I really like the idea, but I kind of feel like it falls flat on its face. The nice thing with the last map was there was the novelty of going to those camps and knowing where things were, or there was like little hidden secrets, and you could go around. But with how these actual surges work, I do get it a lot in the redwoods kind of biome. They spawn on top of these massive cliffs and all of that, and you have to do so much travelling to get to these certain points because they spawn in, well, you know, lots of different places. There's a bit of a pain in the arse trying to get thralls back and forth from those kind of locations when you can't really have a set up kind of station to have your wheel in, and etc. You just have to do a lot of running, and that can get very boring very quickly, and it feels a lot more like a chore to get thralls this time than an actual fun gameplay experience, in my opinion. One critical thing, though, I do miss about the other map and this one is how the recipes are got. I felt like there's not really much point in travelling around the map after you've done Siptah once, because you'll know in all of these places that you don't have to go anywhere to actually go out and get your recipes anymore or anything like that, because you'll just get them at the same activities, such as, you know, tornado or ley shrine. That's most of the time how you're going to get your recipes. And I know there's like languages hidden around, some dances hidden around, and I think one crafting recipe is also hidden around. But then you have this huge other library of recipes that have just been like plopped into these other activities. I do feel like they should have perhaps been hidden around, and there was plenty of really good places to hide them, such as in one of the lizard elder vaults you have all these scrolls. You could have hidden one of them in one of those scrolls or something, made it really interesting for people to try and find it out. All of that great stuff, but no, it just kind of feels like they've been dusted to the side and just shoved in another loot table, and I do miss that quite a lot. It makes you much less inquisitive about your surroundings or exploring in general. Now let's talk about creatures on Siptah. So, as we saw when we saw Siptah, there is a hell of a lot of new creatures, quotation marks. I do really like the new skins on them. They look a lot better than before. The art style is really nice on them. It's a really good job there from the art department. However, there's always a however, isn't there? There is a lot of reskins, and I mean a lot. There is, what we calculated was there is definitely less than 10 unique models, animations, and skins in this one, as in a collective, as in like a whole new creature on its own. There is about less than 10 of those, and then you have a whole, the rest of them are all just new skins, same model, same animation, but new paint, job kind of thing. And most of those actual new ones all came from the storm, so not really many in the environment unique, as in everything unique in one. Don't get me wrong there when I mean, like, you have some of the new bosses here that you would think were new, but they do have the mechanics of, let's say, some of the old bosses. Another one of my bones to pick with Siptah is there's just too much undead for me. Everywhere you go on Siptah, there's a lot of undead. Skeletons or mummies, you name it, they're pretty much everywhere. And my problem with them is they're pretty dull to fight. aka they're pretty boring. You'll go to this really awesome ship location, and then it's just full of undead, and you look around in the chest, it's just your normal chest loot. Nothing really special, and you're just like, well, I'm not coming back here again, And they just feel like a chore to kind of fight for me, that if I'm being incredibly blunt and honest, especially as how many there is of them around the map, but with different models. I mean, you have the whites, you have the mummies, you have the normal skeletons, you have those new looking guys that look like peely pirates in the Blue Men group. You have all of those, but they're all undead and they have the same kind of thing going on. And it's just so boring. I mean, we could have filled it with something a lot more different. Perhaps having some of the Elder Vault creatures out on the land. I know that would probably mess up the story a little bit, but maybe something like that. Instead, guarding the ship, and maybe you can get a really cool wolf skin armor out of this certain place, and it would be worth going to and having a fun time there. But it's just not worth it. Once you've seen it once, you don't have to go back there again, you have that problem. And then you get the same kind of reskinning problems with the armor and the weapons. Yes, there were a few new weapons, I say few, and there was a couple of sets of new armor, which was nice. I was a little bit worried beforehand they would be a separate DLC, but they will not. So you got like 2 new you got 3 new armor sets. Sorry, let me correct myself. And then you have all of this delving, where you would feel like the delving armor you get out should be new armor, but they are all reskins. I feel like if they're going to progress a little bit more on this, they could probably, maybe what I suggested before them is alter those delving armors, give them something a little bit more special, even if it's just like a scratch of paint, or different effects. So like with the Black Knight armor, you can obviously tell that is Scourge armor with the Skelos hood, which you could get from the previous map, and it looks exactly the same, which can get very confusing if you have that all in the same box. So what would have been nice, if not new models, if that's too much work, just some different texture or something. Paint it a different colour, I don't know, just something to show it is different than the other set. Because at the moment, it gets very confusing when you start merging all of those things together in one big box. Now I want to get round to the Maelstrom, which I really do like this event. It's a controlled sandstorm with way more challenge. It feels like the sandstorm that should have been on the other map with the opening trailer that you always see on the opening scene when you open up Conan as a game. At this current moment, though, I do feel like the one-shotting of building pieces and just having to constantly replenish that and stuff is quite boring. At the moment, the strategy is really you have to build near the middle, and then you can add an attachment onto your base and kill things that way, and that's probably the most efficient way you're going to do it. But that makes it so everybody has to kind of live in the middle, and there's only so much space in the middle, you know what I mean? But it's just blah, that, and I can't imagine it's very good for server performance. I do notice sometimes when I have a really good server, but when you have someone with a huge building and then you got all these elder things smashing around and people are gassing them and they're just smashing building pieces, T3 bits with one shot, then it just really tanks the performance to absolute crap. And it's not good. Would I say it's worth the price it is? Yeah, I'd probably say it's a decent price right now. I wouldn't put it any higher than what it is right now, though. I would say what you pay for, I guess you pretty much get it. At the moment, for me, it's £17.99 in pounds. And I would say, yeah, that's worth it at its own price. For what you get, sure, because what they've kind of provided is also like 2 of their normal deco DLCs. So you have the Stormglass and you have the Flotsam, which would usually be about £8, so that's 16. that's what you have there. And then on top of that, you have the map there as well. So a new map to play on, some new scenery, a very small amount of really unique creatures to fight. But then you have all of that nice graphic and well, the new biome and all of that. So I would say, yeah, worth it. But it really needs something to keep it going in the long run. Because like I said, you have the novelty of these things and then it dies out real fast after that. So it really needs end game. It needs something special to make you want to keep coming back. And it's just not there for me right now. Even now, I was thinking I'll keep my Siptah server all the way up to Christmas, but it's just, people have just got really bored of it. So I'm gonna have to go back to Exiled Lands because it has way more things to do, way more places to explore and hide around in, and it is a lot more, well, it has a better direction on what you're supposed to do on there as well. What I probably would have done personally is really add some magic aspects here as well. There's a lot of magic on Siptah, but a lack of magic skills, you know what I mean? You have like an evil sorcery storm, you have creatures hiding away in the vaults with all this kind of power and stuff. But there's kind of you have like a lot of magic around you, but there is no magic for you in a way. Kind of a bit like a tease, but then you don't have the like nice release on that one. So I probably would have added some magic, made the storm area a little bit smaller than it is, because I think it's way too big for what it is right now. And again, you're not going to be spending awful amounts of time in there unless you're either farming for the creatures or for items. Other than that, it's a lot of waste space, I find. Less reskins for sure, I would have liked here as well. Like I said, even if it had like a different touch of paint or a texture that is different, that would have made a huge improvement from what it is right now. That wraps it up pretty much. If I was going to give this map a rating out of 10, I'd go for a solid 6 at this current moment in time. That hasn't changed since beta. It stayed exactly the same from what I've seen. There's a lot to be done still. I feel that very strongly with this one. Please consider my feedback. It's not an attack, it's just how I feel, honestly, and I really do want to see Siptah kind of come out of its shell a bit more and advance to being something wonderful instead of just a one-hit wonder kind of thing. If you want to add on any of my points or discuss it with me in the comments, I'm more than happy to do so with you. Let me know what you like and what you dislike, pros and cons, what you would do differently. I would be more than interested to read comments about that. I'm always interested in that kind of thing anyway, and opinions. Of course, other people might feel differently on this one, but this is just what I feel. But it is how it is right now, so we just have to deal with it. But anyway, thank you for watching. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!